All right, we got to Perek Vav Pasuk Hey. That's what we spoke about yesterday with your question, Miguel. So that was the answer. The answer is that the copper doesn't burn. So in Perek Vav Pasuk Vav, which is page 570, and a very enchanting medrash that I'm going to tell you. The Torah says, "Eish tamid tukar ala mizbeach lo sichba." A fire should burn constantly on the altar. Jonathan, could I trouble you? There's that window is open. If I can trouble you just to getting a cold draft. So it says, "Eish tamid tukar ala mizbeach lo sichba." A constant fire should be burning on the altar. It should not be extinguished. Now there's a fire from heaven. There's also what do you call? They added wood. The holy books. The Sfar, I hate that word. Holy is not a good. The Sfarim HaKadoshim. Thank you, Jonathan. The Sfarim HaKadoshim say that a person who is plagued by inappropriate thoughts. When I say inappropriate thoughts, that does not mean thoughts of becoming a White Sox fan. As inappropriate as that would be. Inappropriate thoughts means thoughts having to do with immorality. Repeating this pasuk has some sort of Eish tamid tukar al mizbeach lo sichba. A person who repeats this pasuk vav, it has a way of warding off the inappropriate thoughts. The best way to ward off the inappropriate thoughts is by thinking about something else. Your mind could only occupy one thought at a time. That's what it means. Sometimes if a person's davening and your mind starts to drift, even if it's not inappropriate thoughts, your mind starts to drift into other areas. You don't have to think to yourself, "Ooh, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't think about it." Is not the idea. Maybe move these things. This is probably getting caught in the. No, it's not. Okay. Thanks. Your mind is. If you're davening and you have your foreign thoughts or inappropriate thoughts, whatever it is, the idea of thinking, I shouldn't be thinking about it, I shouldn't be thinking about it, all it does is reinforce it, ironically. All you have to do is rechannel your mind. It works like this in any area of life. Let's say you're upset with somebody. Just think about something else, and you can't be thinking about that you're upset with this person. It's not that easier said than done if you're upset. But in general, your mind could only occupy one thought at a time. Other than great rabbis like Chaim Ozer Grzinski, who is known to be able to do 4 things at one time. He could hold a conversation, and he could speak on the phone, and he could write all at the same time, compartmentalize his mind. Reb Chaim Brisker and other Gedolim were known that they could think about Torah while they're carrying on a conversation. And somebody once said, "Now, how could that possibly be? How can you possibly be thinking, I'm talking to you and I'm thinking right now about Shnayim Ochaz and Betalis, or I'm thinking about, Dalet Amos, or whatever you're thinking about. How can you possibly do this?" So somebody wants to make an analogy, and again, the analogy is only up to a certain point, but it's an interesting analogy. If you won $10 million this morning, no matter what happens in the course of the day, no matter what you're doing, somewhere in that mind, that's dancing around in your mind. I could be talking, "Hi, how you doing?" And I'm looking at you and I'm seeing $10 million. So if a person had that type of connection to Torah, it's buzzing around in their mind the way $10 million would be buzzing around in my mind, and hopefully will be soon because of the PayPal. So if it's buzzing around in your mind, so then that's the connection to Torah. Most people can't. Most people cannot focus on 2 things. So if you gently refocus your mind, that's the best way to get your mind off of spacing out during davening or spacing out on Yom Kippur or whatever else is. Just gently refocus your mind, number 1. Number 2, there's an interesting medrash here. Good morning, Blake. Page 570. Page 570. There's a very interesting medrash. The medrash on this pasuk says, I'm going to quote you medrash. Eish tamid. Listen to this medrash, gentlemen. The medrash says, how does the article translate tamid? Permanent. What's another word for permanent? Tamid. Constant. I like constant better than permanent. I like constant better because it wasn't permanent. Permanent means it's permanent. Constant means it's always there until it's not there. You're constantly there until something happens. Permanent means that it's permanent, and it wasn't permanent. So it's a constant fire. So the Medrash says the following. A constant fire, that means constant even on Shabbos, constant even in impurity, and constant even during travel. Now, what does that mean? The plain meaning, I think the plain meaning is that the Medrash is telling you, you know how constant the fire was? It was there even on Shabbos in the desert. And it was there even when some of the Jews were impure, became ritually impure. And it was there even while they were traveling. Even when they wrapped up the Mizbeach and they traveled, the fire was on the Mizbeach. That seems to be the plain meaning of the Medrash. But the commentaries go to town with this Medrash. The commentaries talk about different times when, which we've mentioned this in past, if you're sitting in a shul and you're wearing a tallis and tefillin, the Gemara says somebody who's got tefillin on and a tallis on and he has a mezuzah on his door, he's not going to sin very easily. You're surrounded, you're wearing tallis and tefillin, you got a mezuzah, you're probably focused. What happens during those times when a person may lose focus? So for example, and again, Eish Tamid, which we've spoken about already, Eish Tamid means the enthusiasm in serving, the enthusiasm of doing Torah and mitzvahs. But, as I will always repeat, make sure, as Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, sometimes a person on his way running to do a mitzvah could trample the entire world on the way. Right? To make sure the enthusiasm doesn't it's like you ever get elbowed going to kiss the Sefer Torah? Ever get jostled or elbowed when you're going to kiss the Sefer Torah because somebody's got to do that mitzvah and you are an object, you are an obstacle in his mitzvah. On the way, I have a guy at the other yeshiva who is also his temperature is a little too high. So I kind of sit in the front and I have a job there. I'm one of the mashgichim at the yeshiva. So in the morning when they bring back the Sefer Torah, I purposely stand in a way that I want to see if he's going to, if he doesn't know that I'm doing this. I purposely stand in a way because I want to test him to see if he's going to jostle me or if he's going to back off and get it in the proper perspective. Try not to sit this one. No, oh yeah, take it, please. Take a chumash. There's a chumash over there. You can make yourself comfortable, stretch out, have a bowl of grapes. So I purposely stand there to see, and sometimes he does. He's kind of reaching me, and he'll kind of jostle me a little bit, and that sort of thing. And eventually, I'm going to bring it up to him. But first, I just want him to get used to it. It's like he's trying to. It's almost like a guy getting stopped at the line of scrimmage. He's trying to get through, and all of a sudden, boom! He can't get through. So that's the fire of enthusiasm. If you're in a situation where you're in a yeshiva and you have tefillin and you're not, it's very easy to be, let's not use the word enthusiastic, but let's use the word focused. You're very focused on Torah, on mitzvahs, on doing what we're doing. What about on Shabbos? What about on Shabbos? Shabbos we're challenged by food and rest and maybe a little bit of alcohol. Shabbos is challenging to pick yourself up. I don't know about you guys. Friday night after the meal, there are actually people who go to the Beis Medrash and learn. Right? They actually go to Beis Medrash and learn. I've had that in mind many times, right? And what I usually do Friday night is like I'll open up a sefer or like an art scroll book or something, and I'll look at it and I get real tired. I don't like falling asleep with the sefer. So what I do is I fight. My attitude is I fight it. So what I do is I may learn for a few minutes, walk around a little bit because the Gemara says it's not healthy to eat and then immediately get horizontal. So I walk around for a few minutes and then get horizontal. And so what I usually do in the early Shabbos is after a Friday night meal, so I go to sleep. I usually wake up at 2 in the morning, something like that. I go to sleep at at 8, 9 o'clock. I'm too tired. I'm just like I've been going through a 15-rounder. Go sleep at 9 o'clock, wake up at 1, 2 in the morning, get up and learn for a couple hours. Have a cup of coffee, get up and learn if 6 hours have passed, which it isn't always the case. Maybe sleep for 3 hours, 4 hours, get up, learn for a couple hours, then go back to sleep. And then Shabbos ends up becoming a series of naps. And in the course of the day, I learn for an hour, go to sleep for an hour. But there are people actually, as soon as they finish, or even better, they manage to eat in a way that they don't put themselves into that state. They're holding on a level, where they take 3 bites of chicken and they take 2 bites of challah and a little piece of fish, and they're good to go. I'm not. They're good to go. I'm good to start. That's just warm-ups. So it's not holding at that level. So Shabbos could be very challenging. Shabbos could be challenging. You could lose focus. You get caught up in the caught up in it. I've always found that in a certain way, Yom Kippur is an easier day than Rosh Hashanah. It's a more intense day, and it's certainly an uncomfortable day because you're fasting and may have a little headache and that sort of thing. But to stay focused on Yom Kippur in certain ways is easier. Mind drifts because you're hungry and you haven't eaten it, so it's hard to concentrate. But to know what I'm supposed to be doing is a little easier on Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah, you go to shul, then you got to come home and eat a meal. And again, the challenge is Yom Tov, and you have to eat a meal. That's part of Yom Tov, is eating a meal on Rosh Hashanah. What we call it is, in order to keep it in a proper perspective, I am at the king's inaugural ball, because we are inaugurating a Kodesh Baruch Hu, accepting Kodesh Baruch Hu as king. So that it puts the meal in a proper perspective. But there's an expression in Yiddish to dance at two chasnos. You're trying to dance at two weddings at one time. You can't. You're one wedding or at the other wedding. Well, on Rosh Hashanah, you're playing the spiritual versus the physical constantly over 2 days. Yom Kippur, that's it. The physical has been cut out completely, and now it's just a question of getting focused. So here, the Torah says, number one, there's Shabbos. So there's a fire has to be burning tamid. When? When is consistently? On Shabbos it has to burn, and it has to burn during impurity. Now, what does that mean? The commentaries say sometimes a person may have sinned and feels there's no hope for me. It's one thing if once in a while you mess up, but a guy who's really sunk in and he thinks, hey, there's no hope for me. So the Torah taught me that fire can be burning all the time. There's no such thing as no hope. There's no such thing as no hope, and especially, you guys have to remember, because sometimes you guys are a little hard on yourselves. Like, if you didn't know, it wasn't your fault. And the person says, yeah, but I did this and I did that, I did the other. Okay, yeah, so what? So now you're making a commitment to go in the other direction, and you're at a level that's a minimum as high as a tzaddik. According to one opinion in Gemara, you're higher than the level of the tzaddikim. So what do you mean? So it's even bituma. And what about a person who should know better? Yeah, even a person who should know better. Okay, you could always do tshuva. Okay, I messed up. You could do tshuva. The only time you can't do tshuva, you can't do an aveira on credit. Right? I'm going to do this aveira and then do tshuva. There are no dispensations. Right? But I did okay. I had a moment of weakness, or a day of weakness, or a decade of weakness. Yeah? Whatever it is. So what? Okay, I know I shouldn't have done it, but I did it. Okay, now you could do tshuva. You could do tshuva till your dying breath. A person could do tshuva on their deathbed. Guy says to a woman, a guy who's a known, no good nigga. A guy is a Russia. And he says to a woman, Hareyat mekudesh asli, I'm betrothing you on condition that I'm a tzaddik. Where says she's mekudesh, she's betrothed, because it could be he had a momentary thought of doing tshuva. A momentary thought of doing tshuva. So a person says, well, I can't. What do you mean you can't? That's also Yetzer Hara. I got news for you. Guys have to remember also, people are always worried about, the gates of Gehenna. I'm toast. Right? Why? Because I did this wrong, that wrong, or there. 1 second. Did you put on tefillin this morning? Well, do you believe if you do an avera, you get punished? How do you know? How do you get punished for averas, gentlemen?
Gemara.
The Torah says you get punished. Well, the same Torah says you get rewarded for mitzvahs. Did you put on tefillin today? Did you say Kriya Shema today? Did you learn a word of Torah today? So you're going to get rewarded for it. So it's an all or nothing proposition here. If you believe in the punishment, then you got to believe in the reward. You don't believe in the reward, then why are you believing in the punishment? It's all the same source. It's all the same source. They once came to the stipler. I get there 1 second, John. He came to the stipler, and the stipler guy asked the stipler question. The stipler said he could be lenient in a certain halacha. The guy got all nervous. Lenient, The stipler didn't have patience for that. The stipler said, listen, it's the same Hashem that gave the stringencies, gave the leniencies. So who told you to be? The Gemara says that if a person goes to a posek, you ask a halachic question. You go to a posek, and the posek says you can be lenient. Let's start in the other direction. The Gemara says if you go to a posek and he paskins, you have to be stringent. And you go looking for another posek, so you can say you're lenient. So the Gemara says he's a Rasha. Right? What about the other way? You go to one posek who says you can be lenient. But you're frummer than the posek, so you go for another posek because you're looking for a stringency. You know what the Gemara says you are? You're a halachic fool. That's what the Gemara says.
Why?
Who told you got to go make your life hard? Oh. You went to assuming it was a responsible posek. If the posek's name was Sally, so that doesn't work. But if you went to a responsible posek, and a responsible posek, or a responsible Rav gave you a halacha, who told you have to go make your life difficult? What, life is so easy? Who told you have to go be Joe Fromm? Go do what the posek said. Do what the posek said. This comes up all the time. You have the people who, a doctor says to a guy, you can't fast on Yom Kippur. Guy's upset. What are you upset about? What are you upset about? The doctor said you can't. That's a halacha, a clear halacha. If a doctor, an accepted Rav or doctor, or the Rav based on the doctor, whatever the circumstances are, if you have to eat on Yom Kippur, so then eating on Yom Kippur becomes a mitzvah. So what are you upset about? Between me and you guys, I don't know about you, I'd rather eat than fast. I mean, why is my fasting such a party? So, all right, Baruch Hashem, so we want to stay healthy, we want to be able to fast. And if you can't fast, women who give birth very close to Yom Kippur, my wife once gave birth very shortly before Yom Kippur, she had a drink. The doctor said she has to drink. And when you drink on Yom Kippur, unless you have to drink a lot and eat regularly. So generally what they tell you to do is you drink less than, 30 milliliters, 30 cc's every 10 minutes. So you don't drink a shear. You don't drink an amount that's forbidden by the letter, by halacha, the basic amount. So you drink less than, I think, 25 or 30 cc's every at a gap of 10 minutes. So my wife was home. She had just given birth. She had to drink. The doctor said she's got to drink something like grape juice. She needs some of the nutrients. She didn't have to eat. She had to drink. I knew that if I go off to shul and she's got the house, she had a bunch of little kids in the house at the time, she's not going to be able to track it properly. So I stayed home for a few hours during the day. I stayed home for a few hours, and I sat there pouring her shots. I guess that's what we would call it, right? What's it called with the beer? What's it called with the beer when you drink the beer every minute? You take a shot every minute. What's it called? Power hour or something? Something with the beer. We take a shot of beer every. What's it called? Power hour. Yeah. So that was her power hour with grape juice. And I sat there with the kaka. I had a little thing that I marked off before Yontif, and because that's what she has to do. And since she's not gonna, that's her mitzvah. And my mitzvah was to stay home and make sure she does it. No problem. I have no problem with it. That's what I have to do. I want to go to shul and I want to be friend. That's what has to be done. That's what you got to do. What's that?
That's what the Nate's minion is for. Great. Daven, you come back and everyone's still asleep.
Yeah. The only problem with the Nate's minion is you got to get up for the Nate's minion. Other than that, so that's the second one. The second one is in a state of tuma. A person feels that I've sinned. No, eish tamid tukar al mizbech. Even if a person feels he's impure, keep that fire burning. There's no point of no return. And number 3 is when one is traveling. A person is traveling. If a person travels, travel works against us. When a person travels, then you see all sorts of things and you're involved and who knows where you end up. And that's where people are very vulnerable when they're traveling. So I'll tell you an interesting story. I'll tell you one incident from the Gemara. There's a story. The Ger Rebbe, the Beis Yisrael. The Beis Yisrael was the Ger Rebbe. And then if you know anything about the Ger Hasidim, the Rebbe is king, right? And the Rebbe's word is law. In Ger, they have rules. In Ger, for example, they have a rule that if you make a wedding, you can't invite more than a certain amount of people. The Rebbe made a rule, you can't invite more than a certain amount of people, except the Rebbe's wedding, you can't invite more than a certain amount of people, because they don't want to create financial pressure on others who can't afford it. So one of the wealthy Hasidim once went to the Rebbe, and maybe somebody could go out there and ask them to, or close the door over there or something. Yeah. They could also ask them to lower the volume. They're not going to get anywhere with that. Thank you, Miguel. So a wealthy Chassid once came to the Rebbe, and he said to the Rebbe, I'm making a wedding. My daughter's getting married, but Baruch Hashem, I have money. I could afford to more guests. So the Rebbe said to him, okay, then buy yourself a new Rebbe. Yeah, they don't take no prisoners there. They have a rule that they used to have a rule, at least, that a married couple is not allowed to buy an apartment in Yerushalayim for the first 5 years of marriage. Because then it creates a social pressure. People can't afford the cost of living in Yerushalayim, can't afford to buy in Yerushalayim. All sorts of rules and regulations that they have. So there was a certain chassid who came to the Rebbe. He had to go traveling on business. So he went to the Beis Yisrael. The Beis Yisrael, I was in Israel in 1977 when the Beis Yisrael, I was in the old city learning at a Yeshivat Ohr Somayach. We were looking out to the Mount of Olives, and we saw a sea of black. There are about 50,000 Ger Hasidim. The Beis Yisrael had been had just been nifter, had passed away. I didn't know who he was. I know at the time I had no idea. But you're looking out from where I was in the yeshiva in the old city and could look out all the way to the Mount of Olives, and you saw the Sea of Black. He'd been nifter, and he was one of the Gedolei Ador. So the Beis Yisrael, a chassid, came to him, and he said he's traveling on business. He wants a bracha from the Rebbe. So the Beis Yisrael said to him, listen, you're going to be in France, right? Part of your travel. He said, yeah. He said, I would like you to go. There's a certain type of snuff box. You know, Chassidim, they do snuff on, have you ever been to a Chassidish shtibel? It's a tobacco snuff. Yeah, so the people, so that's one of the customs. So the Beis Yisrael said to this guy, I would like you, when you're in France, there's a certain silver snuff box. It's something people had these fancy snuff boxes. Why don't you get me this snuff box in a certain design, a certain this, certain that? So the guy said, okay, and he's honored to go do it for Rabbi. So the guy was traveling, and he went here, there. Yesterday he was in France, and he goes in, he's looking all over, and he can't find this snuff box. They go, we got this snuff box, but not the one the Rebbe wanted. The Rebbe said, don't bring me anything else. This is the one that I want. So he comes back, and the Rebbe says, how was your trip? He says, great, but I'm sorry to disappoint you. But the Rebbe, I couldn't find that snuff box. So the Beis Yisrael said to him, do you really think that I care about the design of the snuff box? Do you really think I needed that snuff box? He said, so why'd you ask me? He said, because I knew that if you're thinking about the snuff box, you'll be thinking about me. If you're thinking about me, you won't be thinking about and doing involved in other things that you shouldn't be doing, because it'll keep me in your focus. That's why I asked you to get the snuff box. Right? So for travel is particularly, people are vulnerable. And therefore, the Medrash says that the fire should be burning all the time. There's a Gemara that some of you are familiar with. There was a man named Elazar ben Durdaya. Elazar ben Durdaya had visited with every harlot in the world, the Gemara says. There was one harlot that he found about who was very high-priced and very popular and high-priced. And he sent, I think it was 400 zuz, he sent a large amount of money, 400 gold coins, and he made an appointment. When he got to her, so they were going to engage in the Avera, and at a certain point, she broke wind. How do you like that? She broke wind. Deal's off. Deal's off, right? She broke wind. So she said to him, the same way that can't be taken back, there's no way that you can do tshuva. Very strange piece of Gemara. The same way that I can't take that back, there's no way your tshuva could be accepted. So Elazar ben Durdaya, he went and he put his head between his knees and he started pleading. He said, mountains and valleys, intercede for me. I want to do tshuva. Putting the head between the knees represents the fetal position. That a person when he's in the fetal position was sinless. All the trouble started after that. So he says that he asked the help from the mountains in the valleys. The mountains, he says, they quoted a pasuk to him. The mountains quoted a pasuk. Tosa says that it was the spirit of the mountains. There's a main angel, the ministering angel of the mountains. Whatever it is, they said, sorry, we got our own issues. So he went to the seas, the rivers and the seas, help me out. We got our own issues. So Elazar ben Durdaya said a very famous line. He said, Ein hadover tolu ela bi. It's all dependent on me. And he put his head between his legs and he started crying in tshuva. And he died. He cried till he died. There's an expression, people shop till they drop. He cried till he died. He cried his neshama out in tshuva. And a heavenly voice came out and said, a bas kol came out and said, Rav Elazar ben Durdaya has immediate entrance into Olam Haba. So Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi heard this. And Rabbi Yehuda said that it's not enough that people can become Baalei Tshuva, they even get smicha. Right? The yesh kona olomo b'shah achas, a person could acquire his world in one moment. And not only acquire world, not only he becomes a Baal Tshuva, but he's over the Baskol didn't say Elazar ben Durdaya, it said Rav Elazar ben Durdaya. He got smicha. How do you like that? In one moment. And this is the guy who was immersed in the deepest levels of immorality. So there are two lessons here. Lesson number one is there's no point of no return, especially a person that didn't know better. There is no point of no return, number one. Number two, a person has to do sincere tshuva. In our day and age, we are not capable of crying our neshama out, unless your team blows it in the fourth quarter with a 12-point lead. Then that's happened. But other than that, we can't cry our neshamas out. Number one, and number two, The best way for us is by getting involved in learning Torah. Torah, it cures all ills. Torah, studying Torah, especially Gemara, that cures all ills. That's what for men. Elazar ben Adai, number one. Number two, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi cried. He said a person could acquire his world in one moment. So I heard what the guy, they asked, what was he crying about? He should be happy, he should be rejoicing. What's he crying about? He's crying for all the wasted moments. If a person could acquire their world in one moment, so there are a whole bunch of moments that could be used, right? Sure? A whole bunch of moments could be used. So that's, but that means the person's never at the point of no return. Okay? Very important. Okay. Now, yeah, go ahead, Bray.
Is it a wasted moment if you didn't know beforehand?
No, how could a person be blamed? How could a person?
So is it a waste?
It's not a waste because HaKadosh Baruch Hu put each person each individual in a certain situation. And each individual is given their tests in life. And nobody knows what their test is, and nobody knows what other people's test is. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu choose to put me here, and he chose to put you there, and he chose to put him somewhere else? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with the personality and with your life circumstances, with your various talents, or your various challenge, why? Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows. And that's why there's first mitzvah in the Torah is to be fruitful and multiply. Because the more people there are in the world, no two people serve Hashem the same way. No two people serve the Rebbe Hashem the same way. No two people, even you have twin brothers, identical twins. You can have Siamese twins. But each one is different. Everybody's got a different personality. That means that you are fulfilling, you are sanctifying Hashem's name. You, with your service of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, are making a Kiddush Hashem that I can't make. And you, with your person, are making a Kiddush Hashem that I can't make. And me, serving Hashem the way mine is making a Kiddush Hashem that you can't make. Each one of us is glorifying Hashem's name. And no two people could do it the same way. Because no two people in the world have similar circumstances. So Elazar ben Durdaya is an example. You could come back from the abyss. But a person should know, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu put me in this situation, that means I'm the one who's suitable for this situation. I'm the one suitable for this test. He didn't put somebody else who is seventh generation in Bnei Brak and only speaks Aramaic. He didn't put him in your situation because he felt you're more capable for this test. And you're more capable for that situation. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there's multiple reasons, infinite reasons we can't possibly fathom them. That's the idea. Okay. Let's take a look at, let's skip out because we didn't cover much. Take a look at Pasuk Tesvav, 570, last line on the bottom. V'hakohen HaMashiach. Oh, by the way, I just want to take a second for an advertisement. First of all, anybody on Torah Anytime who was interested, remember last time I showed you the Haggadah rhymes. The Haggadah rhymes, if you're interested in the Haggadah rhymes, so they are available if you email me at Dovid B. Kaplan, D-O-V-I-D, B as in baseball, Kaplan, K-A-P-L-A-N, for those of you from England, K-A-P-L-A-N, Dovid B. Kaplan. And if you email me and you use PayPal, you can send $12, and I will be glad to send you a copy of the Haggadah rhymes. For those of you who have not heard them, I'll give you one more example of the Haggadah rhymes. For example, which one should we use today as an example, gentlemen? Okay, how's this? No matter, Vihisha Amda, right, the famous Vihisha Amda that we say, no matter how hard our enemies try to wipe out the Jews and commit genocide, how's that for a rhyme, right? They'll never succeed, of that we are certain. Hashem made a promise which will never be broken. Ooh. They'll scheme and conspire, they'll plan and they'll plot. Rishaim like Haman and Achmene. That's dated. That was a while ago.
He's one of the relatively good guys now.
Yeah, right. But we know no matter how hard they try, we will survive and they're gonna die. This is the way Hashem demonstrates that He's protecting us in all times and places. Oh, that wasn't a good one. This is the way Hashem demonstrates that He's protecting us at all times and places. So we lift up our cups and say loud and clear, with Hashem watching over, we have nothing to fear. Okay, that was pretty good. Okay, let's take just one more example. Say Ulmad. This is about Lavan. Lavan had two wonderful daughters. Yaakov met Rachel at the well of water. right? Daughters, water. I mean, close enough. Right there, he decided she'd be his wife. He worked for her 7 years of his
Life.
But Lavan switched. He gave Yaakov her sister. Yaakov confronted him. He said, hey, mister, I worked for Rachel, so why did you cheat? You're the biggest crook I'll ever
Meat.
Lavan just laughed in Yaakov's face. You don't know the rules of our little.
Place.
The younger sister must wait her turn. I guess that's something you'll have to.
Learn.
Every time they made a deal, Lavan would lie and try to.
Steal.
Yaakov took his family and ran away. But what they went in a week, Lavan went in a.
Hey.
Hashem came to Lavan and told him quite clearly, if you start up with Yaakov, you're going to pay.
Dearly.
There you go. So if anybody's interested in any of these, oh, is that good? You like that? Okay. So if anybody's interested, I don't want I'll tell you my favorite one. You want to hear my favorite one? Yeah. I'll tell you my favorite one. Where is it? I think it's my favorite one. I should really know these because I wrote them. Oh, here we go. A long time before the Avodas Perach, there lived a man by the name of Terach. He sold many idols, some big and some small. His son Avram went and smashed up them.
Oh.
He put a stick in the hand of the biggest, said it wasn't me, it was him that.
Did it.
So Terach told Nimrod, who went into a rage, he had Avram thrown into Kivshan
Cage.
Ha'esh. It's called Kivshan Ha'esh, the fire. That was one, I think it was my favorite, that was my favorite rhyme of the whole bunch, was Rage and Ash. I thought that was close enough. But Avram was saved, not a singe or a burn, and after him it was Haran's.
Turn.
But he only believed in Hashem with his lips. So he ended up being burnt to a.
Crisp.
Hashem told Avram, take your things and your wife, go to Eretz Yisrael to start a new life. Yitzchak was born to him and to Sarah. Such a fine boy, bli ayin. Yitzchak had 2 sons, one good and one bad. Yaakov made him happy, Esav made him sad. So again, if anybody out there is interested in the Pesach Haggadah rhymes, feel free to email me at Dovid B. Kaplan at, you could then pay PayPal at my email, $12, and I'll be glad to email you a copy. And please feel, like I said, don't feel any pressure to buy, and hopefully I'll find some other way to support my family. No pressure. Okay, well, let's do one. Okay, now at the bottom of page 570, so it says like this. My sister-in-law actually sent me one yesterday. My sister-in-law sent me an email, and she asked for if she could purchase a copy. So I said to her, listen, I just sent her a free. I said, listen, if you really want to pay, I'll take your house. You know. and then I met her son, who recently got married. I met her son. I said, by the way, what's his name? I wrote his name. I said, he did. He got a really good girl. Then I wrote in parentheses, which is a lot more than I could say for his father. So I told my wife, and my wife was ready to execute me. She said, you can't write that. So my sister-in-law, she got a good sense of humor. So then I wrote her another email. I said, well, listen, I told my wife wanted to strangle me. I said, really, I was just kidding. I just wrote ... maybe. All right. V'hakohen HaMashiach tachtav mibonav yasa osa chok olam la'Hashem kolil toktar. Okay. So this is referring to the constant korban that a Kohen brings. The Kohen on the day is anointed, and then every single day the Kohen would bring an offering, a meal offering. And the Torah says, if you want to go back, let's just describe. Let's read from 5 lines of Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe Lemor, Zek Korban on 570. Zek Korban Aaron Abanav Asher Yakruvu Hashem, Biyomi Mashach Osod, on the day that they're anointed. Asiri Saefa Solis Mincha Tamid, 1/10 measure of flour, Machatzisa baboker, machatzisa ba'arev. Half of it is brought in the morning and half of it is brought at night. And then it describes it as put in a fire pan. And the Kohen HaMashiach, Tachtav Bibanav Yasa Osa. And then any Kohen who's anointed afterwards, he's going to bring it. So this is the Kohen, this is the offering that the Kohen brought every day. Now, there are several ideas in this offering, why the Kohen is divided. Kohen Gadol, he brings half of it in the morning, half in the afternoon. Half of his korban. The Kohen Gadol has to do this every single day. Half of this flour meal offering in the morning, half the afternoon. So the first question is, why is it divided in half? Why is the meal offering divided in half? Why part in the morning, part in the afternoon? So there's several answers that the commentaries give. First of all, twice daily keeps him focused. The Kohen Gadol doesn't have any korbanos that he has to offer, yet he has a choice to offer anyone that he wants. It's good to be Kohen Gadol. But this one he has to do. And that way he keeps him focused on his position, number one. Number two, by bringing an offering, what's the job of the Kohen Gadol? The job of the Kohen Gadol is to keep people in line. He's the spiritual leader of the Jewish people. So there's an expression the Gemara uses, kshot atzmecha. First, adorn yourself before you start adorning other people. That means, before you correct other people, make sure you're right. Sometimes you see in shul, a guy walks over and says something about your tefillin aren't straight. And this guy himself is tefillin aren't straight. That way, before you're worried about me, what do you worry about yourself? So the Kohen Gadol first has to get focused on his own tshuva before he can encourage other people how to do tshuva. Okay, we'll let it go here. We'll continue with this tomorrow because there are quite a few ideas here contained in this. I don't want to race through it.